Yeah, we got those. Everybody should have the EMD forms.
Okay.
Or link to it if they're not going to write it up while they're listening.
Yeah.
Tom, I saw the demo link. I need
And
to
she
confirm
sent out
I
a
have
new
that
one.
because we're going to register our comments. Okay, I got it.
Yeah, you should have gotten it all today for sure. And I think sent it out this afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
The link that we had to go into after when are we done with the first interview.
Yep.
And we have like 15 minutes to update, but I got a few things to read prior to it. We got to discuss some stuff. So I still don't see.
So we got 4:25 tomorrow. 4:25 tomorrow.
Yeah. There's Mimi. So the only one we're missing yet is Pete.
Where is the link that actually gets us to digitally put in our rating?
That should have been today given to you from Ann.
There was an email that was just maybe it was pretty recent, Josh, that she sent out that got the Zoom link and the link for the survey.
Yeah, it wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, it came at 2:26 according to my inbox. And then I had to scroll up. It's in the top part of the email for that EMD link.
Oh, yes. Thanks, guys. Okay.
Everybody got it? So we got everybody but Pete. Corinne, you want to text him if you're out there listening?
There's Pete.
Yeah, I got it.
Oh, okay, there he is. Okay, cool. Okay, let's call the meeting order. Please rise. Let's do the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda? Remember, we'll do a roll call vote.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, got a motion. I have a second.
I'll second it.
Okay, thank you. Roll call vote. Mark?
Aye.
Arlen?
Aye.
Jean?
Aye.
Mimi?
Aye.
Richard?
Aye.
Josh?
Aye.
Okay, opposed? Okay, good. As you guys know, tonight we're going to be interviewing candidates for superintendent position. Before we start, I have to read the opening statement here. Due to the current health pandemic and guidance about limiting person-to-person contact, this meeting of the Houston Public School Board is being conducted in accordance with Minnesota Statute 13D.021, meeting by telephone or other electronic means. This meeting is being recorded. Access to the recording will be made available to the district website as soon as reasonably possible. Persons may also monitor this meeting by a remote location. If you go on our website, you'll have access to that. School board members are reminded to mute their microphones or phones when they're not speaking. School board members wish to speak will raise their hands to let me recognize them, and then they can speak. The board will be determine the order in which board members speak will be recognized. When I recognize you, then you can talk, put it that way. All votes will be conducted by roll call. Each member should wait until their name is called before voting. So, does anybody have any questions before we get started? You guys should have your list of questions. Again, this meeting is not going to adjourn. It's just going to roll into tomorrow. So at the end of the meeting, when we get done, we'll just adjourn and then come in back tomorrow. So.
And if I may, Mr. Chair, I would just, don't adjourn tonight. I would just say we're going to recess till tomorrow.
Okay.
And then state what time you're going to restart.
Okay. So I'm assuming
And if everybody's ready, you can have Corinne let Mary in, and you can introduce yourself and just get going. So,
okay. Go ahead. Corinne, you can let Mary in.
She's entering.
Okay.
Hello, everyone.
Good evening, Mary. Welcome to the Houston Public School. Thanks for meeting with us about becoming our school district next superintendent. As you know, we're going to be interviewing several candidates over the next couple of days. It's our intention to have a second round interviews on the 15th of April. All candidates will be notified as the school board has finished our first round deliberations. Okay?
All right.
With that being said, I'm going to take a moment and introduce you to everybody. I'll call their name and they can tell you a little bit about themselves, how long they've been on the school board, and then we'll get right into questions. Is that okay, Mary?
Sounds great. Thank you.
Okay, we'll start with Mimi.
I'm Mimi Carlson. I think I've been on the school board for 12 years now. It's been a while. I have 5 kids, 2 in college and 3 still in school. So 1 in junior high and 2 in the elementary. My kids have also taken classes in the online school as well. So I've gotten some exposure to that. I'm an IT project manager. So I work for a large consulting company and I work remote. So I've been working remote for many years before the pandemic.
Nice to meet you.
You too. Thanks.
Okay. Josh, you want to go next?
Hi, I'm Josh Arlen. This is my second term on the school board. I'm also a father of students. I have 6 kids, 1 graduate, and then 5 that are still currently enrolled. Just a wonderful town we have here, and it's a wonderful school. So I wish you the best.
Thank you so much. Nice to meet you.
Okay. Gene?
Gene Rundak, I'm 3rd year school board member and coach children in the school. I'm a retired professor from Winona State University in computer science.
All right. Nice to meet you.
Okay. Mark?
Yeah, hi, Mary. My name is Mark Swenson. This is my first term on the school board. I was born and raised in Houston. I have 3 children that attend Houston. 1 is a teenager in the high school, and then and I have 2 that are in preschool age. So, yeah, been here most of my life. Love this town, love this area, love the school. So glad to be a part of this, and look forward to speaking with you.
Meet you, Mark.
Okay. Richard?
Hello, I'm Richard Erdman. I live just outside of Houston in Money Creek. This is my first term, first year on the school board. I have 3 children. My oldest goes to a Lutheran high school, and my two younger ones are middle school and freshman in high school. So it's nice to meet you and good luck.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Then we have Arlen Peterson.
Hi, Mary. I'm Arlen Peterson. This is my 3rd year on the board. I was a teacher in the Houston School District for 29 years. I sell real estate in the area, and my kids are growing, of course, and I hold the great honor of being written in, not running for board, but I still am very appreciative of being elected to the board and am very supportive of Houston, of course.
All right. Good to see you.
And Mary, my name is Tom Stillen. I've been on the board for a little over 20 years. I'm from the area, born and raised, was gone for a few years and then came back. I had 2 daughters that went through Houston Public School, and that's pretty much it. I live outside of Houston and I work from wherever. on the road. So as you know, Mary, tonight we provided you with 16 questions. We will be notified from MSBA when we get close to 30 minutes of time allotted. So at the end of the, let us know if you have any technical problems during the interviews, and we will find a way to work through them. So I guess with that being said, we will get started with our questions, because I'm sure you're excited about that. So
Yeah, it's always good to get started.
Yep. Good to get started. So I will start off the questioning. Tell us about yourself and why you are interested in becoming Houston Public Schools' next superintendent.
Well, my name is Mary Morum. I was fortunate enough to grow up in a small rural town, a little bit bigger than Houston, but not too much bigger, of Blooming Prairie, Minnesota. It was there that I fell in love with a small rural school. I had many opportunities as a young student, from academics to athletics to the arts. I was involved in anything that possibly could be involved in. I think that's the blessing of a small rural school, is that you know everybody and you can get as involved as you want. After that, I was able to go to Winona State, where I got my undergrad in elementary education, and was fortunate enough to have a couple different jobs. I started my career in Rochester Public Schools, and then I went to Austin Public Schools, where I worked at a middle school level and taught both math and science. And then I returned back home to Blooming Prairie, and I spent 13 years there teaching at the elementary school and also coaching the whole time along the way. It was there that I developed my leadership style and skills to become a principal and an administrator, and now a superintendent. I was head of PLCs, I was president of the union, I was a lead negotiator. Again, I try to get as involved as possible and lead in different ways. And it was my peers who said, you need to be an administrator. We need people like you that understand what it's like to be a teacher. So at that point, I did my experiences in Cass and Manorville schools and also in Blooming Prairie, and got my principal degree. And from there, I went on to a middle school in Jackson County Central, where I was a 6, 7, 8 principal. Got to build a really good relationship with the community and see what the needs are and the wants are. But I miss southeastern Minnesota. I only was there for a year, and then I moved to Caledonia, so right up the hill from you. In Caledonia, I was the 6-12 principal and formed many networks and partnerships with Houston, with La Crescent, with Spring Grove, with Winona State, with Viterbo, with UWL, with Luther, with all the great opportunities that southeastern Minnesota has to offer. Then I knew I wanted to be a superintendent. This has always been where I knew I wanted to end up. And I'm one of these people that believe you need to walk in all shoes. So my next job, which I'm currently at, is an elementary principal. So I'm a pre-K 5 principal. And I think all those different principal opportunities provide you with the well-rounded knowledge you need to be a superintendent. So that's kind of my background. Now, why Houston? Houston is a partnership that I have worked with for many, many years. We were able to work together to offer college and different courses in the career and technical fields. With Todd and I, we communicated and made sure our schedules worked and that the kids could come to our school and that we could do the same. We did this also through different things through HVED. We continued that communication, and we also started the Bluff County Collaborative, which I don't know if you're familiar with or that was shared with, but we continue to have business and partnerships that were built, and hopefully it's continuing. And if not, I would want to restart that. And just where you're geographically located, right next to the colleges, I think it offers a great opportunity to continue to build and grow. And I love the area. I love the people. I love the kids that came from Houston to my building in Caledonia and greeted me at the door, that said hello, that knew my name. Even when I still see them today, they would say hello, Mrs. Morum, or they would know if they were working at the grocery store or wherever they were at. So I know what kind of quality community you have. I know what kind of quality student you have, and I would love to be a superintendent at Houston schools.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Amy?
What qualities do you possess that you believe make you an outstanding administrator?
Well, the first is that I'm positive. I'm one of these people that are very approachable. And kids have a sense of that. People have a sense of that. Even when you go to local things that aren't part of the school, they know that you're that kind of caring adult that they can trust. So being that positive kind of caring adult that anyone can come up to, I think is really, really important. Communicator. I think it's really important to communicate clearly and consistently and with all people. I have the characteristic of being visible and outgoing. So being involved and volunteering and being part of the community at whole, I think is a very, very good quality. I like things organized, but yet I can think outside the box. So I like that strategic plan. I like things organized and well laid out, but at the same point, can we collaborate together and can we think outside the box and come up with different plans? And I'm dedicated. The thing that I will always give you my all, and I am dedicated to making the best education possible for all students, online and in person, whatever the needs are for those students. I will give my all and dedication to all those students and all of you as a community.
Okay, thank you. Josh?
Describe your philosophy of effective and efficient delegation, and how do you delegate responsibility to others?
I believe in finding, first of all, making sure everybody has a voice in that decision-making process. So we all need to have a voice. And how do we delegate? We find what people have as talents. I'm sure as a school board sitting in front of me tonight, there are certain areas that some of you are better at. So we want to make sure that we find the talents of our team and we delegate appropriately, and we delegate with asking what their talent is, and we build on part of it. And then making sure it's shared, right? In a small school, there are many hats to be worn. I am very well aware of that. And sometimes I need to wear a different hat, and sometimes I might need someone else to wear that hat for me. But if your staff and your community know that you're willing to do whatever it takes, you're able to ask those things in the need of whatever the need is at the time. I think it's very important to be visible and transparent, and so that you can make those decisions together, and then those asks and those leadership just become natural in the process.
Thank you. Jean, you're up next.
What is your definition of an ideal school board superintendent relationship?
Open, honest, and communicative. I believe that we need to communicate. I believe that everybody has an idea in their head of how things should go. And I think I need to learn about you, and you need to learn about me, and we need to develop our communications. How do we want that to communicate? I would meet with, one of the things I would do when we first started, as I would meet with all of you, we would review and making sure our communications are what works for everybody. You all just shared your different places of where you're at and where you're working, and I would want to make sure that I meet those needs. I think we would develop different retreats, communication, our roles, our norms, our best practices, and then goals for me. What are your goals for me? I definitely believe that there's an order and we have to set those goals. And then how do those goals then translate down into the staff? And then how do we make sure that we're meeting the needs of the students' achievement? I mean, kind of just trickles down the road, so.
Okay, thank you. Arlen?
Mary, my question is, how would you approach the important task of developing relationships with the staff, with students, parent groups, and the community?
Well, staff, students, parent groups, and the community. That's a big one, so I have to write them all down there. Well, first, we develop that trust in those relationships with staff by being visible, by making sure that we're all on the same page and valuing their input. I think being out and being in the classroom or joining classroom meetings virtually, whatever it is, we want to make sure that we're out and visible. The students, finding out their why. What are they passionate about? What do they want to know? What do they want to learn? Where are they going? Where's their pathway in life? Every single student has a desire and a dream and a passion. We want to build on that. So I develop those trusting relationships with getting to know who they are on a personal level and what their desire to be. Parents, we have to remember as administrators that all parents, every single parent, that's their children. All of you said you have children, some that are graduated and some, and they are your heart, right? They are who you are. And we need to value that. And we need to, every relationship and every time that we talk to a parent, we have to remember that. Even though you may be dealing with hundreds or thousands of people, you have to remember that this is their child. And we develop that by, again, being honest and open and having those conversations and having an open door policy with those parents. And with community is asking, going out there and asking, being visible in volunteering and being part of those organizations, being part of the Lions, being part of the Rotary, whatever community events you have, being part of the chamber, getting as involved as possible. I think that really builds that network and that trusting relationship that what you want to do is best. And a lot of times you have to market your kids and you do that within the community as well. And you build those relationships. We had a group called Community Spirit when I was in Caledonia, and they had all these ideas. And then some of these things they'd ask, we're like, we're doing those. Would you like to see, or would you like to have those students come and present and share their talents with you? And they're like, yes. And so just building those relationships, I think, is really, really important.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Mark?
Yeah, Mary, this is a two-part question. So how would you describe your communication skills? And then how would your current staff, students, parents, and community describe them?
All right. As I alluded to earlier, my communication style is making sure that we meet people wherever they're at. Right now, one of the things that we do at the pre-K through grades 1 and 2, K1 and 2, is we communicate through Seesaw, and we share their academics and their performance through Seesaw. And that's a platform in which they are able to communicate. That works for parents, that works for teachers, that works for students. In 3, 4, 5, currently we use Google Classroom. In 9 through 12, we use Schoology. So every platform or every age of kid is different, and that communication needs to meet that need. Also looking at data at what times of day. Is it social media that we need to communicate? Is it where on the website? We want to make sure things are clear, user-friendly, and concise. And then also taking feedback with the distance learning models, which I'm sure all of you went through as well. That was a lot of communication, right? We've used communication probably to the best of our ability in the last year and a half. And a parent said, well, I think it would be really cool if we could take and instead of list it and then put it in that grid form across, the web page, and just making sure it's just very clear and concise and just right across. We did that. So just utilizing the feedback too of all members, no different than your online school. Like, how do we make sure that we see everybody's faces and things, the IT part, that things aren't lagging, that type of thing. So we need to make sure that we're clear and concise. And I think that's how I would describe my communications style, and making sure it's understandable. We want to make sure it's understandable. And I would hope that my current students and staff would say the same thing. I also hope they would say, if there's constructive feedback, and we're valuing what they say, and then we're changing it to make it better. I always invite everyone, and students, especially at the older they get, the more they're available. It's no different than this isn't necessarily an example about communication, but an example with listening to students. The students said, we really like eating in our classrooms. And I said, well, tell me more about that. They're like, well, the noise level is just way less, Mrs. Morum. Even if we don't have to do it next year, is this something we would be able to do? So my students would definitely say that I'm open to listening and then making things better by valuing their input. And I would hope that all members would say that, families, community, and my staff.
I was muted there, so I guess Richard, you're up next.
All right. Yeah, my question has kind of three pieces to it. So is there a difference between management and leadership? If so, what might that be? And can an individual be a manager and a leader?
Yes, yes, and yes. Management, I think of management as kind of like the day-to-day is going on, moving people, how do we get people safely in and out, operating of the building, the busing, all those different things that go into making a school day safe and successful, right? With the focus on academic achievement, of course, but just that managerial. I think leadership is making sure that you lead, you're a role model, you motivate, you build on the best and the brightest students and staff, and you continue to do that. I think leadership is something where you are an active listener and you participate in all aspects of the building. Not that management isn't that, but it's, to me, leadership is more of that focus on the motivating and academic achievement. And the third part of that question was, can they be together? Can you read that third part again, please, Richard?
Yeah, can an individual be a manager and a leader?
Yes, I think you need to be both to be successful. I know the example of like deploying devices, right? You have to be organized, but yet you have to have the right tools in the hands of the kids, and you have to provide the right leadership to the staff so that they're able to do that. But then the managerial of the time and the communication, that they have to go hand in hand. I think it's cyclical, and you have to be able to do both. That's our role as administrators, and I think it's an active part that we need to find that balance between the two, right? Because sometimes I feel like, I'm going to be honest with you, I feel like I've spent a lot more in just management and not as much as leadership as I have in my years past, with all the different goings on that we've had to follow and the mandates and things. So I think they both have to be there.
Okay, thank you, Mary. My question is going to be, tell us about your leadership experience with special education. What do you believe is the impact on special education on students, families, and society at large?
I'm writing it down, sorry. Well, my experience with special education is this is a huge part of an administrative role. I think it starts off, for me, this starts back to being a teacher, having students in your classroom and making sure that we have the modifications and accommodations to meet their style and their needs. I think we need to make sure that we're always doing what's best for all students, including special ed, but that we're finding out what they need. I believe in teaching kids how to advocate for themselves. As a high school principal, I wanted the students to know their IEP in and out. I wanted to know that they had access to it at all times, and they knew where it was. They were able to get it and advocate for themselves, because it's hard when you're a teacher and you have hundreds of kids. You might forget an accommodation, not that you want to, but you might. And teaching those kids how to advocate for themselves, I think, is very, very important. And also then it transfers then into college and the career and the job force. What are my needs as a learner? And then how do I best advocate for myself and then do what's best for whatever company or wherever I'm working? I think society at large is And then we need to teach kids how to work together, no matter who they're working with, and understand their differences. Even if you're not in special ed, we need to understand each other's differences, and we need to build upon them and make everybody feel wanted and valued. And if they do, if we do our job as educators and we make everybody feel wanted and valued, society would change at whole and at large. Whenever we have these discussions, I always go back to education. Education is the most powerful thing for everything. And if we really truly do that, the society will be a better place.
Okay, thank you, Mary.
Explain about your experience in working with third-party virtual contracts and other school district vendor contracts.
Well, I don't have a ton of experience with third-party. We have with third-party billing. We have a little bit through different means at the high school and with. Are you talking about? Can you clarify that for me? So third-party billing, as far as like OT, is that what you're talking about?
Tom, is it okay if I respond with what I think it means?
Yeah, go ahead.
Correct me if you think differently, but I think it's more about some of the contracts that we have. We have some large contracts with our online school. So some contracts with that. We also have some technology contracts in place. We have food service contracts.
So do you have Taher? Is that who your food
Yes.
service is? Okay. So I'm glad I asked a clarifying question, because I was thinking third-party billing as far as like special ed with OT. And so I'm glad I asked the clarifying question with PT. So I do not have a ton of experience. I do have experience with Taher and that party billing as far as making sure that we match. We have Infinite Campus as our, and making sure that our food service matches that and making sure that that stays balanced. As far as those additional contracts, we currently have our own transportation system and that type of place. And we have our own IT person in-house. I know, do you still have an IT that's out of house that kind of helps service Houston as well, I believe, still? Do you have dependable solutions still?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So yep, worked very hand in hand with dependable solutions, sit at the table, making sure that our contract is met and what our needs and what are our services, and providing that. Also staying fiscally responsible. I know that your needs are ever changing, especially with Minnesota Virtual Academy. Your enrollment went up to like 2,400 this last year, where it had been staying. So to grow that quickly, and then the needs of it, and then making sure that those contracts and things meet those needs. So I think the biggest thing, I don't have a ton of experience, but I do know who to ask, and making sure that we are staying fiscally responsible and making sure that we sit at the table and we have those open and honest conversations, and also having representatives from the board be part of that committee and making sure that we are staying true to where we need to be and where our end goal is in mind. So I would seek out. The good thing about Southeastern Minnesota is, you know what, the second person I called was Houston when I started in Caledonia, and I know that they will help me. So I still have them programmed in my phone. So that's the good thing about it, and willing to work hard and figure it out so I can do what's best for the school district. Thank you for clarifying.
You have 30 minutes left.
I like the sign.
Yeah. Keeps us all straight.
Yeah.
Hey, Josh, you're up next.
Mary, what actions would you take to promote Houston Public Schools within our community?
Well, I believe that we all need to celebrate successes, successes of staff, successes of students, successes of community, successes of parents. I think that is super important. One of the things that we currently do is we have an acknowledgement at the school board, and we call it the Cobra Pride, and we share and we advertise and we promote. I also believe in putting things out for social media and target. Where's our audiences at? What are they listening to, what are they seeing, what are they knowing. We need to celebrate successes. I think that that's very important. And then we also need to sell what the good things we have going on, right? We need to let them know about our academics and our arts and our athletics and what's good going on and why Houston. Why should they pick Houston? I think that that's an important piece. I think that the partnerships that you already have and you developed, Houston's ahead of the game, right? Otana Public Schools just added an online school and they just added it. It'll start next school year, right? So you're already ahead of that game. How can we market and how can we advertise and build upon that? I have lots of great ideas, but those are just my ideas. I would want to hear from all of you. I would want to hear from your community, your parents and your students, and how could we market and how can we make that better? That just wouldn't be a me decision, but we would get together, we would brainstorm, we'd form a strategic plan together, and we would lay it out there. And how do we move forward? And what an exciting time, right? You guys were, when people talked about it, I'm always like, oh, Houston, they'd be like, do you know about this? And I'm like, yes, I know about Minnesota Virtual Academy. I had students taking classes there the whole entire time I was in Caledonia. So I even had one of my students from Triton that was a Minnesota Virtual Academy student this year. So know what that's like. And just, I think there's endless opportunities to make it even greater and better than it already is. So would love that opportunity.
Next,
Jane, did you get? Oh.
Yes. What do you think being involved in the school buildings and community means?
It means that you are the biggest advocate for all. It means being there and being present and showing that you care and then building the best of the best. That's the most exciting part of a small is you get to know everybody. I want to know every student. I want to know what they're passionate about. I want to be able to provide different opportunities for them. I had a young lady who wanted to learn sign language, and there was nothing out there for her, that any courses that could take, and she was already pretty advanced. And so I met with Winona State, and we were able to get her in a level 300 course and get her that sign language. And the professor kind of hesitated at the time and like, I don't know, Mary, I don't know. And then the professor halfway into the semester emailed me. She goes, you're right. This is the best for this student. I want to be that advocate and finding out what works for every kid and making that best possibility for every child and also for the community. We need to know what the community needs, and we need to build upon its strengths and bring other things in and just make it the best it can be.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And Arlen, you're up next.
Mary, my question is, how would you build teamwork and collaboration within the school district?
Well, this is my favorite thing. You can ask the other area. You build teamwork by purposely building teamwork. It's no different than being a coach. I look at this as, what do we need to get done? We learn about each other's, who we are, what drives us, what motivates us, and we do professional development, in which teamwork is part of that. And I was thinking about it today too, like, how do we continue to build that even virtually with our virtual teachers, and how do we work together and get to know each other in different activities that we can do. If we know who each other is and how we work, we can build on that team. I also think that them seeing that you're willing to do anything, definitely as a motivator, will help them work hard as a team. Collaboration, setting those goals and those parameters and making sure that everybody's voice is heard, and we're have a goal in mind, which is to do what's best for students, and we need to collaborate to do that. Having those open and honest conversations throughout, and then also having the structure and being timely about it. I think is really, really important. We just adopted a new math series at my current building, and that took a lot of collaboration, but we had 100% buy-in, and we had that by having purposeful surveys, conversations, teams put together, looking at it all, looking at what's the best for preschool, what's the best for intervention teachers, what's the best for special education teachers. And from there, I've never had 100%, but I had 100%. I'm getting better at this game, so we need to collaborate and work together to do what's best for students, and then hearing everybody's voice. I think that's the most important part.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, Mark, you're up.
All right. All right, Mary, this is a 3-part question, so get ready for this.
They always give you the 3-part questions, Mark.
I'm glad you noticed that. So here we go. So how would you lead the school district in developing short and long range strategic, financial, and operational plans? Who would you involve in the planning process, and how would you implement the plans?
Okay. Well, we need to look at the budget, right? And we always need to make sure that we're hitting the target. Being fiscally responsible for what's best for kids, I think needs to start. Are there any short-term things that we need to take care of? I'm sure that you already have a strategic plan where you're at fiscally, and then where do we need to be? Also looking at the different funding sources coming in. ESSERS 2 was just released last week. ESSERS 3 will be coming out. How does that fit and tie in with the budget? That would be something short-term, but could impact us long-term. So this is something that's kind of always moving and evolving, but also just like I talked about with your enrollment, right? You went up 2,400, but then we also need to be fiscally responsible and stay within that means, because enrollment may drop as next year comes. So like looking at that whole big picture, I think is really important for both short and long-term financing. Who is involved in that? That is the finance committee, whoever is on that finance committee currently in Houston. And then do we need any other stakeholders to be involved in that? I also think we need to constantly look at that. If it's different things that is impacting, then we have different people on different committees, depending on where that is. We need to implement the plans in a timely manner. We need to make sure we have balanced class sizes. We need to make sure where our negotiations are at. Different teams or different groups might be negotiating at different times. I think we need to keep that in mind. And then we need to, like I said, we need to lay out that strategic plan in which we all are on the same page and we're looking at both short and long term. And then we also need to come back to it and we need to evaluate it, right? And then make changes as needed. I think if anything, you have done that more probably in the last year and a half than those of you who've been on the school board for a while. You probably had to do that a lot more. I think that that's important in order to implement that strategic plan. And a strategic plan is not just the finances. We also have to look at the whole, all of that. So there's many other pieces, buildings and grounds, different things, the technology, the third-party billing, all those other things that come into that. I think there are many, many pieces. And I think meeting regularly and consistently, and sometimes a year you need to meet more often, right? There's different times, the deadlines that we have for the state of Minnesota, we're going to need to make sure that we are timely on that and that we're reviewing the budget and we're continuing. And then being as informed as possible at the school board meetings, making sure that we're transparent and we're communicating that, I think is important as well. That's a huge question, but those are the pieces that I think. And then I think the last piece is, if we don't know, we ask for help. I think that that's important in making sure. I know we've helped with other accounting firms and had them come in and also give us guidance, and I think that that's important too. Sometimes have outsiders look at it and then tell us where we need to go and how we need to stay fiscally responsible. I think is important as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Richard.
Okay, mine is mine's pretty short one this time. What does educational equity mean to you?
Equity means we're giving every student the best possible education, no matter what their needs are. And that we're staying at the same time fiscally responsible. So we need to look at any decision that we make, what impacts may it have on these different groups or child. And then we need to make sure that this is aligning to what is best and what will benefit that student. And then involving stakeholders along the way. You always need to involve stakeholders from the beginning until the end and make sure, is what we did the correct? Is it valid, or is it invalid, and do we need to change and modify? And then what potential barriers are there? If there are potential barriers, how can we eliminate them in order to have an equitable education for all? So this to me is such a huge thing, but we always want to do what's best for kids, and we always want to stay fiscally responsible at the same time, and making sure that we can break down those barriers so that everybody has that equitable opportunity. And this goes from curriculum. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. We had a PLC. It was Spring Grove, Caledonia, Houston, La Crescent, and it was all about curriculum and making sure that curriculum was equitable. And we had the experts from the state of Minnesota come down and help us. And how do we go through this? And how do we look at this as educators and making sure that the curriculum is equitable for all within our school districts. So we spent a whole entire year on just this subject with curriculum. So I think it's providing the best opportunity for all students and making sure that we do what they're passionate about, what they need. Again, I'm going to go back to that. And then finding ways to make it happen.
Okay. Mimi?
Superintendent's leadership style impacts the tone of the organization. What do you consider to be important leadership qualities you would bring to Houston Public Schools?
We're kind of coming back around. We're kind of spiraling, aren't we? Back to that beginning. The tone of the organization. I believe in a positive culture. I said that earlier, and I'm going to say it again. A positive culture and a place where every single person, whatever their thought or desire, that they feel valued and welcomed. And if we do that, if we create that tone, that culture, that atmosphere, the world will just be a better place, and Houston will be the place that everyone wants to come to. A young man, I did senior interviews just a couple weeks ago, and this young man said to me, when's the time you went up and beyond? And he says, every time that there's the door is open, I hold the door for people and I greet them. And for him, that was his up and beyond. And that's what he was so passionate and so desirable about. We want to set the tone that we are all here to help. We're all here to be collaborators and team workers and give back to society. All those questions that you asked is exactly the tone that you want and exactly the tone that I want to give. I want to make sure that they know I care and I want what's best for their education.
Okay. And the last question is mine. Do you have any questions for us? Okay.
Yes. What are all of you most proud of as Houston School Board members?
Question. Anybody want to jump on that one, or do we?
Well, I can, I'll speak up. I think that we collaborate real well together as a team, and even with some new members, I think our current staff does the same. And that we have a very positive atmosphere. I'd like to think we do. And so you're coming in a good position there. Oh, that's all I got.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean,
I've,
go ahead. Who wants to go next here?
I was just gonna
Raise
pipe
your
it a little
hand.
bit, Tom. I haven't been on the school board very long, but I'll tell you what, I've been in the community for a long. Well, I was away kind of like Tom was and came back, but been a part of the community for a long time, and I'm really proud of how Houston, being a small rural community, I think has really stood up to the like COVID with the technology and everything else. I think we're trying to stay on the edge of a lot of that in order to keep our students engaged and keep them involved and just really put them out in good foot forward into the community, or the world, I should say. So I'm really proud of that. I think from an academic standpoint, I think we're really trying to lead the charge, and I think that's commendable for a smaller community. So
I have a student teacher, so I supervise at Winona State, and I had a student teacher that Marty took on fall semester, and he's from Chicago, so he's from a bigger city, and he student taught in Houston the first semester, and he took a job in a small rural school in a different state, but he goes, I never knew this is what school could be like. And he goes, I don't think I'll ever go back to a bigger school, Mary. And so that's a tribute to all of you, and just an amazing kind of story. So, and you guys were fortunate to have him fall semester. He's a great teacher.
Yeah, and I got a couple of things. I mean, obviously, you probably know some of the history. Our elementary school is, Blue Ribbon School last year. I mean, we've been on the U.S. News and World Report list for top schools a couple times. MNVA, I don't know if you know this or not, but pretty much we started the online program in the state of Minnesota. We're, I think, the oldest, second largest in the school, or in the state. Pandemic, when it started last year, I feel we're fortunate, like Mark and Josh said. I mean, we've got excellent teachers, I feel, from top to bottom. I know we do. And our online program. And what I mean by the online program, a lot of the teachers stepped up to help other teachers in the state to get a better understanding on how to conduct online distance learning, because we've been doing it so long. It was not, our teachers are involved, but we have a large group of teachers, like 75, that are part of our online program, that were out willing to help other schools and other teachers get a understanding on how to do that efficiently and effectively, which I think is great. It kind of piggybacks on what Mark and Josh both said. Because we're a small school, I know when I went to school here, everybody's like, oh, you're from Houston. Like, we're a little podunk town back in the backwoods. But realistically, and I think both of them said, and you mentioned it during this conversation, we are in the front edge, or we're leading a lot of the schools in the state in a lot of ways. And I think that's very commendable, and that's because of the administration and our teachers that we have here at Houston. So I feel it's a big deal. And of course, the girls basketball team went to state, which is a big deal. And we have a strong community.
They have some young ones yet, right?
Oh yeah. And I mean, it's just, as Mark said, him and I both were gone. I was out of town for almost 23 years, and when I retired, and my wife and I are both from here, we came back to Houston because of what Houston has to offer, not only for our kids, but for ourselves. So it's a great community. Anybody else have anything to say?
Yeah. I'm new to the board, but the meeting and stuff I've been to, we tend to work pretty well together. Can kind of feed off each other, I think, pretty good. As a parent in the school district, I've had to work a lot with teachers and the special ed teachers we've had, because my two boys do have IEPs. So I do have more dealings with some of the teachers hands-on and stuff. I think that I have been able to work with them all the way through. And I love how our special ed program tries to streamline and keep the kids in the open classroom with their other classmates as much as possible. And I think that helps the kids, because our kids, the way they react and the way they interact with the special needs kids in any level, I think is is phenomenal. How these kids interact with each other and help each other out.
Mhm.
So I think we do a really good job from top to bottom with our teachers and our students' attitudes and positive attitudes. So that's what I wanted to put in.
Mary, I think I'll go next. I have the advantage or disadvantage, however you want to look at it. I've been here over 60 years. We don't want to get real precise with that because that ages me quite a bit. At least, also 3 of these board members I had in class. I'm extremely proud of what they've accomplished and where they've gone with their lives since I had them in class. But what I want to point out that I think is most important is that having been a teacher, I now see what the teachers that we have now. They're absolutely excellent. They're very, very high caliber. I think they proved that during the time of the pandemic. They went out to help other teachers. They help within our school a lot. We have a coaching staff that works above and beyond. We have, not just the academics, but all of our extracurricular. I think Corinne, who's the going out superintendent, would fill you in also that she was a speech teacher for many years. I was involved in drama in high school. All of these have been excellent programs in this school district for many, many years. And because of that, I think we all as board members are on the board because of our pride. When you're dealing with people that are very proud of the positions they have, they pass that on to the other individuals that they're working with. And I think as I've watched, the Houston School District works very, very diligently to succeed in everything they do. And we have had in the past excellent leadership also, which I believe helps.
Oh, for sure. Well, even think about robotics, right? Robotics started in Houston, moved up the hill to Caledonia. They were a coach for Caledonia, and then Caledonia helped coach Spring Grove. So you were on the forefront of robotics when it first started too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Gene, you want to say something?
Sure. I had a grandson that graduated from the Minnesota Virtue Academy. He was in Rochester, and he was having a difficult time in school because he was an adaptive on that. He got bored for a while, and everything else. And he was able to graduate because of the Virtue Academy.
That's wonderful.
I think I'm the only one that didn't go, Tom. So what am I most proud of? It's not just one thing. I mean, we're winning a lot of awards, but our teachers are amazing. They don't let the kids fail. So that's the benefit of being in a small school, is that, they will do what it takes to make sure these kids are successful. And we have one of the best schools in the country. I'm willing to go head to head with anybody. I firmly believe that the kids in our school are given the opportunities that they need to do whatever they want in life. So I'll take our small school any day against any of the big ones in the cities.
That's awesome. I love all the pride that all of you have when you share your stories. That's what it's all about. Being
So you have 5 minutes left. You might have time for one more question.
Well, we got a 5-minute one too. I didn't know that.
Yeah, we're a countdown specialist.
So
do you have any questions?
Yep, I do. I just have one more. How could I continue to involve the community and the other educational teams? What do you see the next superintendent, what do you see wanting from them? To involve the community and the other educational teams.
I think that just real simple for me, I would say be very approachable. I mean, as you know, in this area, you want to meet everyone eye to eye and be very open and at least a good listener. You don't have to be agreeable, but as long as you listen and maybe with the change in position, it will give people other opportunities to maybe come approach this new superintendent as use it as an opportunity, I should say. That's that.
Makes sense. Thank you.
I think Josh is pretty much spot on. I think the community just looks for somebody open and willing to communicate and be out there for people to ask questions to. So, have any more input on that question?
So we can have
Everybody was bragging
superintendent
about the
coffee at
school, but nobody-
baristas. Coffee and conversations at barista.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, right. Anybody have any other questions?
Some of us are down to baristas almost
You don't have
every
any
day. We got a charge down there.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's in that letter.
So, you have any more questions, Mary, for us?
No, I just
We're
want
down to
to
a
thank,
couple of minutes.
yeah, I just want to thank all of you. I know that this is a big decision for school boards, and I really, really appreciate your time. And it was wonderful to hear our conversation at the end. That's the most natural for me. As you could probably tell, I was a little nervous at the beginning, but I really am a people person. I love the Houston area. I love the Houston schools. I love the work that we'd already done with it. So I wish you all the best of luck, and I really want to thank you for this opportunity.
No, thank you so much for your time today. You know, it's kind of generic here, but we enjoyed the time talking. Like you said, the end is always best, being open. So as you know, we're going to be conducting a few more interviews. You're the first. So thanks again. As soon as we're done, we'll contact you after the board has finalized our deliberation, which will be tomorrow. So.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a great night.
Yep. Thank you.
Nice to meet all of you.
Yep.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Jay, Corinne, you're out there?
I am here. And once again, since I have YouTube going and the board meeting going, I'm getting reverb back. So
Okay. Everybody knows that we have some time. The next one will start at 6:45. You got to make sure you input your information, and then we'll restart the process all over again at 6:45. So you got about 20 minutes, correct? Corinne, is that what you show?
I have about 17 minutes. Yes, you're right in doing those
Okay.
forms, getting those done right away. That would be the best.
Yep. Get the forms done and then get a drink of water, whatever you need, and get back.
Yep. All right.
So we can have a restroom break, a hallway pass here, Tom? Oh, he's muted.
Yes, yes, you can, Josh. That'd be
All right.
fine. I'll give you permission.
say Tom.
Yeah, you remember,
So can our,
we're still on live
yeah,
YouTube.
yeah, I was just going to say though, just so our candidates can then view the other interviews, correct?
That's correct, right, Dave?
That's correct.
Not that, I mean, just,
Oh, just a question, right?
right.
But that's partially why we give them their own, they have their own link. So then when that link's done, it's done. So they can't just stay on their link and stay on.
That's
Yeah.
good to know too. That's good. Okay. Now tomorrow we're meeting at 4:25 then,
That's correct. Yep.
with deliberation to follow. So we'll
Correct.
follow the same format of the two interviews, and then we'll have okay. Is the deliberation then offline or off of live?
No, it's my understanding that the deliberation is on YouTube as well. Everything's
Yeah.
live.
Okay.
And there'll be,
As if we're-
tomorrow you'll have that as part of the deliberation, you'll also have the audience input. You'll have your EMD input, and then you'll have a chance to go around the table and talk about things as well to determine who you're going to go out to the,
The second interviews.
excuse me, I could be wrong on that one. The audience, I think, is for the second interviews. I don't know that, I don't think you have the
Yeah.
audience tomorrow. You have the EMD tomorrow. You have the EMD tomorrow.
Okay.
How much time do we have before we start another 7,
They have about
another
minutes, I think.
4 minutes?
It's like 6:41 right now.
Okay. Is it-
What?
No, Mimi's still out yet and Pete, right? Or is Pete there?
Oh,
I didn't.
I was gonna just say on a fun note, it's been really nice to see the spring sports starting. I got the chance to catch a boys baseball game and a girls softball, and it's awesome. I mean, we could use a few degrees warmer, but at least that we haven't had torrential rain or snow like some years have started. I know that Arlen can attest to that.
Tom, on the 30-minute thing, I try to wait until it between whatever the question they're on. So I try not to interrupt them when they, so I'll wait, it might be a minute or two, one way or the other, but I'll try to wait because I don't want to interrupt, their train of thought during that specific question. So.
No, that's
It's
fine.
fading.
That's fine.
But the last one went well and we got done in time. So that's always good.
Yeah. Is everybody back now?
She is in the waiting room, so let me know when you want me to let her in.
Okay, well, as soon as Pete gets back. I don't see him there yet, Corinne. Do you see him? Pete gets back.
Pete is here, I just don't see his picture again.
Well. Are we right at about time, Dave? You're muted, Dave.
Yes, we have 1 minute left. Sorry.
Oh, it's okay. Well, you might as well let her in, Corinne, and then I can go over this meet and greet thing. Well, you might as well let her in, Corinne, and meet and greet delay.
Yeah, let it.
I think she's there now. Tom.
Oh, okay.
I see her. I see her.
Okay.
Hello,
Hey, how are you this evening?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. Welcome
Thank
to
you.
Houston Public School. Yeah, to Houston Public School. Thank you for meeting with us about becoming our school district next superintendent. As you know, we will be conducting several interviews with candidates over the next couple of days. And our intention to have a second round interview on the 15th of April.
Okay,
All candidates will be notified as soon as the board has finished our first round deliberations, which will be tomorrow.
okay,
Board members will take notes, obviously, and listen. Hopefully, if there's no more questions, I'm going to kind of go through. You should have a copy of the interview questions, correct?
I did not get one. I was just gonna ask that, Dave, were those, they said those would get emailed to me and I didn't get them.
Oh, but I sent it to your email. I'm sorry. I sent them 10 minutes ago. Between sessions here.
Okay, well, let me,
So I'm sorry if you didn't get it, but I used your email that you gave to us.
well, I've gotten everything else. Hang on one second. We're not gonna get it hung up on that. I might just have to be a really good listener. Well, I'll just keep it pulled up. If they come, they come. If not, not. I'll just have to
Okay.
listen carefully and talk fast, right? We'll get through.
Well, there's
I'll
about
just watch for them to
16.
come. That's okay. I've got two screens, so we'll make it work. Dave, would you
Okay.
just maybe want to send them again if they would come through, then I could be watching for them.
It's mjk33sjk@gmail.com, right?
Yep, that's correct.
Okay. All right, I'll try it again.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. We'll
About
just,
10
let's go
minutes
ahead
ago.
though.
Okay. Well, yeah, as you know, we'll find out. There's 16 questions.
Okay,
We'll kind of let you know when we're at 30 minutes. Dave will put up his big sign,
perfect.
kind of go down to 5 minutes type of thing.
Okay.
And first of all, before we get started on questions, we'll go through introducing you to each one of the members of the board.
Okay,
And start with Richard. They'll tell you a little bit about themselves and from there.
okay, thanks.
Yep. Richard, you want to start?
Okay. My name is Richard Erdman. It's my first year on the school board. Been living around the Houston area for a while, my whole life. And I have 3 children. My oldest goes to a Lutheran high school, and my 2 boys are at the Houston junior/high school.
Thank you.
Yep. And I work in Winona, so
Okay, good.
that's all about me.
Okay, thank you, Richard. Josh.
Yes, nice to meet you, Sarah. I am a second-term board member, also a graduate of Houston High, and I've had the pleasure of having 6 kids in the district. One's a graduate a couple years ago and a senior this year. And so just that hurricane pride.
Great, thank you.
Okay, Mimi, you want to go next?
I am Mimi Carlson. I've been on the board for 12 years. I have 5 kids. 2 have graduated and are at college, and I have 1 junior high and 2 in the elementary. I am an IT project manager.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
You too.
Okay, Mark, do you want to go next?
Yeah, hi, Sarah. My name is Mark Swenson. I was born and raised in Houston. I have 3 kids in the Houston Public School District, and 1 in the, I guess you would be junior high in the high school, and then 2 that are preschool age, 1 going into kindergarten next year. So, and yeah, really proud of the area, and I work in the area as well. So.
Okay, Arlen, you want to go next?
Hi there, Sarah. My name is Arlen Peterson. And I was a school teacher at Houston for 29 years. I sell real estate in the area. My children have grown and graduated from Houston School. I had 3 children that went through the system. And it's very nice to have you here.
It's nice to meet you, Arlen.
Okay, Gene.
Yeah, I'm Gene Ondak, Sarah, and I've been on the school board for 3 years. I don't have any children in school. I came from Winona because I taught at Winona State University as a professor in the computer science department.
Nice to meet you.
Hey, it's short and sweet. And last but not least would be me. My name is Tom Stillen. I've been on the school board a little over 20 years. I also graduated from Houston High School a long time ago. Was gone for a few years, about 23, then came back and semi-retired here. That's pretty much about me, I guess I want to say right now. With that being said, we'll just kind of jump right into the questions, if you're ready.
Yep, I am, and I got the questions. Thanks, Dave. They came through. I don't know if it was the first or second try, but I got them, so that makes it easier. Thank you.
Oh, perfect. So then you'll see that the first question is mine. Tell us about yourself and why you're interested in being Houston Public Schools' next superintendent.
Sure. So I'll just tell you a little bit about myself. I'll kind of summarize my educational history and experiences. So you've all seen my resume, but I'll just give a little synopsis. I taught special education for the first 5 years of my career after graduating from the University of Northern Iowa. My degrees, my undergrad degrees were in elementary education with minors in English language arts and reading. After about 5 years of teaching, I became a consultant in the area education agency system. About the same time I did that, I started my advanced degree work in administration. After 5 years of teaching and 5 years of consulting work, I became an administrator. And the titles I had during that time with the area education agency, where I was a sector coordinator and a regional administrator for the area education agency. And I'm gonna spend just a little bit of time talking about my role there, because I think it was my role there that gave me some unique experiences that I want you to understand. So in that job, the area education agency is similar to what you might know as the Ed District in Minnesota. But a little bit different. So we were much larger than the Ed District. So we had about served anywhere from 40 to 50 districts as opposed to a smaller Ed District. So in my role as a regional administrator or a sector coordinator there, about a third of my job in that role always was in the supervision of special education services, which is what you know in your work with HFED. About another third of my role there was working with district level administrators. So I would serve on their cabinet level, kind of in the role of special ed director, support this principals and superintendents in the cabinet level, a lot of policy, procedure, supervision, oversight, working on professional development, school improvement, tech integration, special education. So that, and with that role, I always worked with about anywhere from 4 to 9 school districts at a time. So a third supervision of special ed, a third in that cabinet role. And then what I think is a little bit unique to my job there is that another third of my job, because we were such a large agency, is I always had the opportunity to work in a broader capacity where I had the opportunity to work on more of an agency or state level initiatives, where I would do the training and implementation of large scale initiatives across our 50 districts, where I would train and supervise MTSS, or multi-tiered system of support, which is something you might be familiar with, professional learning communities, instructional coaching. I did a lot in staff development. I did a lot of the implementation of state level initiatives. If the state would have a rollout of an initiative, we would take that as an agency and bring that to the district level. I also would supervise I had like a large early childhood portion where I would have 100 early childhood staff that would be under my supervision. I did that for a couple of years. I'd have 100 speech pathologists under my supervision. So I'd have some large scale initiatives and supervision of large groups of people there. So my job was quite unique in that I had the opportunity to work anywhere from small schools, such as Houston, to schools more the size of Winona, and then this bigger scale or kind of state level initiatives. So I just like to spend a little bit of time explaining that, because that model's a little bit different than maybe what we have in Minnesota. And I really think it gave me the opportunity to have a skill set that's different than maybe what my resume reflects by just reading that. So I did that. I was an administrator there for about 15 years. And in that time there, I also had the opportunity to be the principal of a setting 4 school where we served students with social, emotional, behavior, and mental health issues. So that was a K-8 facility. And I was like I said, the principal of that facility. And then in that 3 years, for 2 of those years, I also was the principal and supervisor for an alternative high school. So that was mixed in that 15 years as well. When I left the area education agency, I came to Winona, and I've been in Winona in the role as director of special education I'm just finishing my 3rd year here. And in Winona, I've been the director of special education. I've also been responsible for our district-wide title programs. I've been responsible for our 504 and our health services programs. So that's been my work experience. I've also, in 2016, I obtained a doctorate degree from the University of Northern Iowa. My doctorate degree was in the area of special education with an emphasis in leadership. And then outside of those roles, I've also done some work as an adjunct professor. And I've taught instructional coaching, consultation, and collaboration. I've also taught several semesters of administration of special education in their director of special education programming at the University of Northern Iowa. And I've taught numerous students over the course of several years in student teaching and practicum students. So that's been my educational career, education and work experience in a summary. So I guess the rest of that question, if I look here, is tell us about yourself and why I'm interested in becoming the superintendent of Houston, which is the most important question. So Houston is a very intriguing opportunity for me. And let me tell you how I first became interested in Houston. I first found this beautiful little community about 5 years ago because a couple friends of mine and I trail ride. I ride horseback. That's what I do in my spare time. And we found Houston to be our favorite spot to trail ride. So I've trail ridden there numerous times. It's my favorite place to come. And I like to ride there. And that's how I first got introduced to the community. So when I called my mom and told her that I was applying for a job in Houston and got an interview, she was thrilled. She said, that means we can ride horseback there all the time. I said, absolutely. So that was my first introduction to Houston. And I was pleasantly surprised about the opportunities in your community. So that's on a personal level, but professionally, I think it's just an exciting opportunity for me. I've done, as I just explained to you, lots of exciting things in my career. The one thing that I have not done is become a superintendent. So I'm just, I think, excited and ready to accept that next challenge. And I am seeking to do that. I prefer to stay in this southern tier of Minnesota at this time, and I enjoy the smaller school setting. Like I said, I've worked in a variety of sizes of districts. I really like the energy and excitement that small communities bring. So I'm looking to have a superintendency in a smaller district. And I'm particularly interested in Houston because I as I have learned a little bit about your community and your school district, I believe that your community and your board have done some very interesting and exciting things to kind of keep you on the cutting edge of what's going to lead us into the future. So one thing that I noted was that you have PBIS at the elementary and at the high school, which is often doesn't occur in districts. I'm very excited that you have your alternative learning program, the Summit Learning Academy or Summit Learning Center. I'm not pulling up the right word, but I think that's been a great creative way to pull students into your district and offer a unique learning experience to all your learners. And then of course your virtual academy, which I'm really energized about that. You know, you were ahead of the curve in knowing nobody was going to predict COVID, but you did predict the fact that we as a community of educators need to be thinking ahead about what's going to keep us engaged with all learners and provide revenue and provide programming that might be unique and different and separate us from other districts in the state. So I would be excited and energized to be your next superintendent and provide leadership in all of those alternate forms of education, in addition to our traditional brick and mortar system, in which I also feel like you've got a good solid foundation of programming in which to build. There's a lot of good things going on to build upon. So that makes me excited about the opportunity.
Okay, thank you. Mimi, you have the next question.
Yes. What qualities do you possess that you believe make you an outstanding administrator?
I think the thing that I possess that really make me an outstanding administrator is that I will work tirelessly and continuously to improve the quality of education in the Houston community and the Houston public schools. I really have the skill and ability to create a clear vision that will develop and sustain high performing and an effective organization.
Okay, thank you. Josh, you're next.
I better unmute myself here. Sarah, describe your philosophy of effective and efficient delegation, and how do you delegate responsibility to others?
The philosophy of effective and efficient delegation, I believe, is the foundation of doing that is knowing the strategic plan and knowing the goals of your organization to start with. So I don't believe you can delegate the tasks and the responsibilities to others until you deeply and completely understand where you're headed to start with. So that's number one. And after that happens, I believe you have to know and understand the strengths of your teammates and know where those delegation responsibilities need to lie. And then I believe you delegate with confidence that each person that you delegate to can get the task accomplished. They need to know the goals. They need to have an operationalized plan to get there. You need to give them the authority to carry out the task and be supportive along the way.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. Jean.
Sarah, what is your definition of an ideal school board superintendent relationship?
An ideal, so trust, transparency, and communication, and those three just they come together, they stick together, and they can't happen without each other. So they each build upon one another. Trust, transparency, communication. Yeah, it's a chicken and an egg thing. I don't know which comes first, second, and third. They just all happen simultaneously. They have to happen constantly. And and it has to be two-way communication. It can't just be one to the other. I think there's a lot of strategies that make that happen. I believe there has to be verbal communication, written communication, but most importantly, there has to be frequent communication, and then that trust and transparency comes along with that.
Oh, there we are. Thank you. You're up next.
Yes, Sarah, my question is, how would you approach the important task of developing relationships with staff, students, parent groups, and community?
Well, I think that's twofold in the Houston district because of the virtual academy and the brick and mortar system. So I think that you have to tackle that a little bit differently. So let's start with the traditional school community. I think that you start being new to a community and not having relationships with anybody. I think you have to be extremely strategic about the plan in which you tackle that. So I would use a 100-day entry plan where my objectives would be to identify the key stakeholders in the community in which to build relationships, the key stakeholders within the community, the building, work with the board on who those are and what needs to happen there, and have a very specific and concrete plan of what needs to happen in the first 100 days. Beyond that 100 days, that my plan as far as that relationship building with parents and community group is knowing and being planful about maintaining those relationships over time. So I believe it's really important that I'm visible in the community. I know what community organizations are important to belong to, be a part of. I believe it's important to be visible at community events. I believe it's important to be actively engaged in school events. And then as far as staff and students, same thing, especially in a small community. People know who you are, they know your name, they like to see your face. I think it's extremely important to be in classrooms and in buildings and engaged in conversations with staff and students and parents, throughout the day. I'm very much a planner. I live and die by my calendar. So I like to have a daily, weekly, monthly checklist in which I just build those specific sets of activities right into my calendar as far as staff, student, community. And I would, do that. I do that in my current position. So that's how I would do that. As far as a presence in the online, the virtual academy, of course, you're not physically present, but I think strategically the same things need to occur. You have to be planful and purposeful about building relationships in that environment. Again, present at staff meetings, present for staff development, making opportunity to build relationships, even though you're not physically present in the, in the physical space. Did I hit all that? I think I did. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Sarah.
Okay, next question is from Mark.
Hi, Sarah. This is a two-part question. So how would you describe your communication skills? And then how would your current staff, students, parents, and community describe them?
I would describe my communication skills as really strong. I would say that I'm a highly effective communicator. I'm an energetic communicator, and I like to communicate. So I think that communication is the key to everything that we do. I work on my communication skills all the time. I watch how the people around me communicate, and I watch people that I think are effective leaders communicate, and I continue to learn from them. So describing them, so I would say I'm an effective communicator, and I would also say that we're never a good enough at communication. So I will always commit to getting better at that. I'm planful about my communication. When I think about the stakeholder groups, the kinds of committees that we work on, I always summarize and end each meeting with a communication plan, so that everybody's clear and understands who we communicate with, how we communicate, who's responsible to communicate, what the follow-up needs to be, whether that needs to be a verbal, a written, what needs to happen next. So that communication piece is extremely important. It's important when we're in person. I think when I described to you my position at the area education agency, I worked in that environment we were a 50 district organization. So that communication plan was extremely important. We had people 50 districts away. So that communication piece, when we weren't physically present, became extremely important as well. I might make the assumption that in that virtual academy, because we don't have that, run into each other as we're passing in the hall, or we don't see each other day to day, making sure that we have that communication plan in place is extremely important. My current staff and community, they would say exactly what I said, that I'm good at communicating, that I make that a priority. And I also would say that they would say that I'm a good listener as well, that I believe that communication is two-way, and that while I like to have a communication plan, I also have an open door policy, and that I believe that it's just as important to hear what other people have to say and listen to other people's priorities and needs as well.
Okay, thank you. Richard?
Okay, yep, mine is a kind of a three-part question. Is there a difference between management and leadership? If so, what might that be? And can an individual be a manager and a leader?
Did you say that's a three-part question? Absolutely. Yeah. Yes, there is a difference. Yes. I can give you some examples, and yes, you can be both, and we have to be both. So I'm just going to give a couple of examples here. So one of the most impactful professional development trainings that I went to was when I became the principal of my school, and I engaged in a professional learning opportunity that was called the SAM model. So it was called School Administrative Manager. And I've used that training. I'm not going to say every day of my career since then, but I'm going to say every week of my career since then. And the focus of that training was exactly this. It was separating out leadership, so being an instructional leader versus a manager. And I spent 1 year in training, and I spent 3 years of my career where I coded 100% of my time into instructional leadership or managerial leadership. And my target was to get 80% of my time into that instructional leadership capacity as opposed to managerial leadership. Now, you can imagine when you start that task, I was down in that 40% range. And what this training did for me was helped me separate out the tasks that I engaged in every day that were managerial in nature, who we could delegate those to effectively, still get the tasks done, and how I could rethink my time and energy and turn tasks into more of an instructional leadership opportunity. And so I worked on that project for 3 years, and it took me the first year. I worked my way up from my baseline at about 40%, and I was able to maintain over the course of the next 2 years that I tracked my time to think about and get my instructional leadership time up into the 78 to 80% range. It's impossible to keep it up there, on a day-to-day basis, because there's just tasks that take you away from that at certain times in your throughout the year. But in general, I was able to do that. And while my jobs have changed and my time isn't spent exactly like it was as a principal, that training has really forced me to really think about not necessarily changing what we do, because the day-to-day tasks in which we engage in as a director of special education, as a superintendent, some of those district level leadership things have to be done. But we can think about them from an instructional leadership perspective as opposed to a managerial perspective. And we can help the principals that we work with, the teachers that we work with, really any staff that we work with, and shift them to an instructional leadership opportunity. So that was kind of a long answer to maybe a short question, but the answer to that is absolutely yes. And it really, one of my goals as I embark on a superintendency is to work very hard on maintaining my role as an instructional leader and not allow myself really ever to shift into that role of management alone, which I think sometimes can happen. The further away we get from kids, I think the harder it is to stay in that instructional leadership piece and get into the management.
30 minutes. 30 minutes.
Thanks, Dave.
Thanks, Dave. We're pretty much at the halfway point here.
Okay,
So
perfect. So we're right on target.
yeah, my next question is, tell us about your leadership experience with special education. What do you believe is the impact of special education on students, families, and society at large?
Okay. So my leadership experiences with special education, well, I have a doctorate in special education and with an emphasis in leadership. So my experiences with special education are large. Throughout my career, no matter what I've been doing, there's been a special ed bent on it, even when my focus was in general education. So I've done programming, I've done, the due process pieces of it. I've done the finance pieces of it. I've done just about everything you can do in special education. I've got experience from birth through age 21. So I've got that baby experience and the transition experience. I love the instructional part of special education. I like the program evaluation part of it. So I feel like I bring a really strong special ed experience. I also, I believe I bring strength to the virtual academy. I do believe that the special education piece of the virtual academy is a bit of a challenge. While that the virtual learning piece for all learners is difficult, special education brings a specific nuance to that I think that we have to continue to pay attention to. While I do believe it does specifically meet the needs of learners, different sometimes than classrooms, it is something that we have to pay attention to. So I also, in one role that I had in the area education agency, we worked hard at bringing, using teletherapy as our service delivery model. When we looked back at making sure that we were providing equitable services to all special education students. So I think that I can bring that perspective to the virtual academy piece as well. So what do I believe is the impact? Interestingly, as a special education, as a special educator, I am very, very committed to ensuring that we do not over-identify students in special education. While I believe that students have the right to special education services, I believe that all special education students also have we have the obligation to serve students in the least restrictive environment. I believe that all students have access to the general education classroom and to make progress in the general education curriculum. I think that we should not over-serve and over-accommodate students. I believe instead that our kids with diverse learning needs to be empowered to be high achievers, just like all of our students. I believe that the over serving and over identification of special education actually has a negative impact in our overall society. So I think we have to find ways to provide good quality core teaching instruction with the appropriate services and supports in place to meet the needs of all learners. And when we do that in a balanced, systematic, good quality instructional approach, we actually better meet the needs of our special education and non-special education learners.
Okay, thank you. Mimi, you're up.
Explain about your experience in working with third-party virtual contracts and other school district vendor contracts.
So I don't know that I have experience with third-party virtual contracts. So school district vendor contracts. So I'm not sure I'm understanding your question there, but we do a lot of vendor contracting in special education. So if that's your reference point, I have a lot of experience with that. We do a lot with, like we contract in Winona. I'll give an example. We do a lot of contract services with HVED. We contract with the Virtual Academy to provide services to our students. We do the tuition billing system in the state of Minnesota. So we do a lot of vendor billing in that capacity, but I'm not sure that's what the question is answering. Am I on track or?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
So yeah, any experience with contract? We do have a large contract with our online school.
Yes, yes.
And then we just have other vendor contracts like with HVED or with Taher for food service. And so just
okay. Yeah. So we do a lot of, so in my current position, we do contract services with mental health providers. We do contract services with all the special education providers. So yes, my experience is great at, like I said, I wasn't exactly sure that language, but there's a lot of contracted and billing services that happen in special education. And we do, so lots of that goes on.
Thank you.
Okay, Josh.
Yes. What actions would you take to promote Houston Public Schools within our community?
I think that the biggest thing that we can do to promote our schools within our community is just be proud of who we are and be present and excited about the programs and the facilities and the activities that we have going on. One of my things that I think about when I think about being a superintendent is that you're an instructional leader, you're the chief finance officer, and you're also the marketing manager in the district. So you wear a lot of hats, and you have to have a lot of energy and a lot of capacity to be out there doing all three of those jobs. So I think you have to do it with excitement. I think you have to do it with creativity. And again, I think that goes back to that communication and relationships and that presence that you have as you build all those things. So I think, and more specifically within the community, I think it's important to, especially in small communities when, we might be in places with declining enrollment, I think you have to do things like connecting with your Chamber of Commerce and your, some of those long-term planning committees. So we're thinking about ways in which we can continue to bring industry and young families and things that will continue to build the population, either keep families in our community or bring new families into our community. So I think all that goes into that strategic planning, not only within the district, but within the community. And I think that the superintendent plays an absolutely critical and key role in that. In a smaller district, a school and a community are not separate entities. They have to be one united front because we rely on each other to keep business afloat and our schools afloat.
Okay. For that. Gene.
Okay, what do you think being involved in the school buildings and community means?
I think I probably just answered that one. I just think it's energy and excitement. I love being an educator and I love the work that I've been able to do. And I'm proud of who we are. And I'm proud of public schools. And I think we have a lot to offer in our communities. So I think being involved and being like I said, a marketing manager and promoting what we do is exciting. So I like people and I like relationships. And I think that just bringing that energy and excitement to a community is a really important thing. And like I said, there's been great things that have happened. There's great foundational work that's been done in Houston Public Schools. It's exciting to me that I would not be stepping into a situation where there's a whole bunch of negative stuff that's gone on, and you're not in a turnaround situation. You guys have got a situation where you've got long history of good quality programming that's been built upon, and you've got lots of things to be proud of. So the work that comes next is, of course, there's always things that need to be addressed, but there's a long history of pride in the community and pride in the schools, and that makes that next level of work a whole bunch easier to carry forward.
Thank you. Arlen, you're up.
Yes, Sarah, your next question is, how would you build teamwork and collaboration within the school district?
Teamwork and collaboration, a lot of the things that I've already said, but building that teamwork and collaboration within the school district really comes, I think when a new person is joining a district, it's important to take that first, I'm going to say couple months to a year, really understanding what has already worked well in a district. I don't think it behooves somebody new to come in and think my ideas are better than every idea that's ever been present in a district. I think it's very important to understand the teamwork and the collaboration that's already there, to understand the strengths that are already present in a district, to understand the great work that the prior superintendent has already started, and start building from that, because there's already teamwork and collaboration that's existed. So start there, understand what's working well, understand the strategic plan that's happened, that's already in place in the district, and then start to build teams from that point. It's not likely that every team needs to start from scratch. There might be a few, but we need to identify what those are and start those from scratch, and then get to know teams, get to know where teams are headed, and build on team strengths. I would say that one of my greatest strengths is to understand how people work best, identify their strengths, and find ways to capitalize on them, on their personal strengths, which makes them enjoy their work more, and really turn teams into higher functioning employees, higher functioning teams, which make a better work environment, a happier place to come to work. And again, I don't know much about your culture climate, but if there's things that we need to work on, then those are the places that we need to find the strengths and weaknesses and move forward from that. That all happens in a very collaborative, communicative, relationship building environment. And I'm just going to go back to that trust and transparency thing that I talked about in the beginning. So that just all happens simultaneously, but it also happens very planfully. It doesn't happen by chance. It happens by having good strategic plans in place.
Thank you, Sarah.
Mark, you're next.
All right, Sarah, this is a 3-part question.
Okay.
So how would you lead the school district in developing short and long range strategic, financial, and operational plans? And then who would you involve in the planning process? and how would you implement the plans?
Okay, so the short range and long range strategic plans, financial and operational. So that might be more, this might be more than 3 questions in there. I'm just going to say, I think you tucked 4 in. So short range and long range strategic and financial. Well, I'm going to go right away back to the district's strategic plan, because I think that strategic plan lays the groundwork for both our financial and our operational plans. So the strategic plan does lay the groundwork for short-term and long-term goals, and it also lays the groundwork for operational plans, but I also believe it lays the groundwork for financial plans, because we need to be basing our financial decisions on our strategic action plan, which lays out our priorities. So they all fit together. You can't have operational and financial plans separate from one another. And it's all based on those strategic actions and directions. It's all based on that continuous improvement process, and understanding, the resources and the fund balances and where we're at with all those things. So none of it happens in isolation. It all happens in that continuous improvement process. And it all happens, one based upon the other. Financial and operational all fits together. I'd like to say nicely. Most often it does if we've done a good job, and sometimes it doesn't. When it doesn't, then we have to really go to the drawing board and help prioritize, what our needs are based on that. Our financial resources might help us rethink what our operational priorities are, and or vice versa. So who would I involve in that planning process? Clearly, having that good, trustful, transparent relationship with the board is the number one priority, so that we're transparent. We have a trusting relationship. Everybody knows where we're at with the finances. Everybody understands where we're at with the strategic directions. We know where we're at with our goals. We know when we're in alignment and out of alignment with our strategic directions. So that board relationship is of the utmost importance. Myself having a very good, solid relationship with the business manager in the district. And if I understand correctly, your business manager is very quality and has been there for a while. So having that good relationship with her would be important. And then, of course, having a good relationship with your bargaining units. So where are we at with your educational units and your other bargaining units, and having that meet and confer relationship, and having those collective bargaining relationships, so that there's trust and transparency there. So if we're at a point where we are out of alignment for some reason, we can reach these, a mutually beneficial decision that we can agree on and maintain a relationship, so that we can keep our district moving in a positive direction. So implementing those plans, I'll go back to any plan that we implement in a school district, all needs to be based on that continuous improvement cycle. So, we just need to, it's that needs model. We do a needs assessment, we plan, we implement, we evaluate, and we cycle back around. And it just circles and circles and circles. And when we get off the cycle, we shift, adjust, and keep moving until we get to the solution.
Okay. Richard.
Yeah. What does educational equity mean to you?
Educational equity to me means that all students get what they need. Doesn't mean everybody gets the same. It means all students get what they need. And I have a big push in equity that, when we say all in your, Houston's mission statement says, all learners at the end of it. And I really feel so strongly that when we talk about all, that we really mean all. We don't mean some, we don't mean a few. When we say all, we mean every single student, every single teacher, every single staff person, every single community member. If that's our mission and our vision, and we say equity for all, we truly mean meeting the needs of all.
Okay. Thank you.
A superintendent's leadership style impacts the tone of the organization. What do you consider to be important leadership qualities you would bring to Houston Public Schools?
I bring energy. I bring energy. I bring excitement. I bring commitment. I bring dedication. I feel so excited about what the next 5 to 10 years are going to bring to schools. I think that the last 2 years has brought us it's brought us into kind of some dark spaces, but boy, I think we've learned a lot. And I think that where we're headed is going to be really exciting. So let's see, leadership qualities, I listed a few. I am very committed to making sure, like the equity thing, that we bring equity, we bring commitment, we bring equality, we bring all those things into our buildings, into our communities, into our online environments, whatever that means, to bring all of us together to make sure that everybody gets what they need to create a community of learners, that create a society of learners and members of the greater good.
Okay. Thank you. So we come to the last question, which is what questions you have for us?
All right. So let's see, where are we at with time? We've got about 5 minutes. Am I right about that, Dave? Looks like it. Oh, okay.
Dave's muted.
Oh, he's muted. We'll go with 5. Okay.
Sorry, I got you down for about 6 to 8 minutes.
Okay, we're doing great then. So let's see. I've got way more questions that we have time for. So let me just start with, I'm going to try to get a couple in here. Let's see. I'll start with this one. What do each of you see as the most pressing or urgent issue that's facing Houston Public Schools in the next 2 years? I'll say 2 to 3 years. So what's the next, or the most pressing or urgent issue facing Houston Public Schools in the next 2 to 3 years?
Anybody have any input on that? Richard, Mimi?
Yeah, maybe you can go.
Mimi, go ahead.
I think that with our online school, our enrollment is just, it was up so high this past year. What will it be next year? What will it be the year after that? And just understanding how that's going, how to best manage those fluctuations in the online school.
Sure.
How that affects our local school. So that's a big one. I don't know if that's the most pressing, but it is a pretty big thing that we need to manage.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Richard, do you have something?
Yeah, I was kind of going with the online too, just the fluctuation, hearing that other schools are trying to figure out and put an online thing together, how that could affect our fluctuation numbers. But the other thing is working with the community, with, the different businesses that we have, because we have, our small community has quite a diverse option of little businesses for a small town, how we can need to work with that to keep, kids when they graduate local and stuff and help our community grow.
Thank you.
Gene, I think you had your hand up also.
Yeah, I would say in terms of finances, because the state's budgets are always uncertainty, and for 2 years, we would like it to have a longer term plan than that. And with negotiations, we have a lot of teachers that have a lot of experience, so our budget is in terms of negotiation fairly high, and we have to consider that too, trying to maintain that. If we try to keep good teachers and they like to stay here too. So.
Thank you.
Arlen, do you have any?
Yeah, I think, Sarah, when we look at the whole picture of everything, I think the board members that have brought up the online school, I think that is a concern, of course, due to the fact that we know that the numbers are probably going to drop a little bit now, but then, you know, we went up a lot last year.
Right.
I think a big concern that we maybe have is retaining excellent staff like we have. That probably is going to be an ongoing problem for much of the state, not just us. The smaller the school, the less applicants you tend to have. And I think that's going to be a difficulty we're going to have to face. And so some of our more difficult areas where there aren't as many graduates that are going out in the teaching field, I think that's going to be a challenge for us year after year, is to be able to get quality staff members like we have to be able to fill.
Sure.
In 5 minutes, 5 minutes.
Thanks, Dave.
You have other questions, Sarah?
I do. I'll just make this one a real quick one. What is the one personal attribute that you think is the most necessary for your next superintendent to possess? So I'll say that again. What is the one most important personal attribute that you think is most necessary for your next superintendent to possess?
Anybody have a hand up out there? Nobody wants to take on?
I guess I'd like to point out there in my feelings about that. I think communication skills are number one. I think the new superintendent is going to have to not only communicate with the teachers that they work directly with, but the board and the community and the parents. And on top of all of that, they need to be able to communicate with the students. And I think the more that board member or that superintendent can become visible in the community, I think that can be a real positive attribute that they will display.
Anybody else have a?
Yeah, I'll add to that, Tom. So, Sarah, I think Arlen really hit on it. I was kind of debating in my head when he asked that question because it's like just one, huh? But I think he summed it up really well, because communication, I think if you're a good communicator, you're I shouldn't say inherently, but most likely a fairly good leader. You definitely deal with people. You're probably a relationship person. And I think that's the type of person that we definitely need in this position. So I think Arlen spoke well to it.
Thank you.
Hey, Richard, did you have something or Mimi?
Yeah, he was speaking on the communication. I was including the transparency, so everybody can see and knows what's going on with no questions.
Okay.
I was going to say trustworthiness and honesty.
We're freezing up here.
Can you trustworthiness and honesty?
Whoa, what happened? Mimi, you just froze. Now you're back.
It could be you.
Yeah, I heard what you said. I got it written down. So, good.
Okay.
Good. Well, I just thank you for your time. It was very lovely to meet you all. And I will I'm guessing you have a couple more interviews tomorrow night. And I would be honored and thrilled if I could meet you again on Thursday night, it sounds like. So I will look forward to that if that works out that way. So again, nice to meet you all, and hopefully we'll see you later this week.
Yep. Thanks again for taking the time.
Thank you. Yes. Take care.
Appreciate it. And we'll be in contact.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks.
Okay, everybody. That was me, Mimi. You're right. I was frozen. So everybody take a moment to fill out the form. And then Dave is, then we'll come back and meet. So I have about 15 minutes. We should be done with the form, correct?
That's correct. That's correct.
And then we'll come back and finish off for the evening.
Right, we'll probably finish off with a motion that would recess this meeting. So,
Right. Till tomorrow
Okay.
at 4:20.
right, correct.
Okay, we'll be back here in a few then, people.
Be back at about 8 o'clock. Is that what you want, Tom?
Yeah, I think that gives everybody enough time to get it done.
Okay. All
8
right,
o'clock, we'll be back.
all right.
Tom, even though that we log into our superintendent scorecard here or whatever, that's still, even though we're logging in as ourselves, it remains anonymous, correct? You're muted, but I can read your lips.
Yes, yes, that's my understanding. Yep.
Yes. Everything is that. Nobody knows about it till tomorrow. All we get then is how they put it together. The EMD form.
So will that be the same?
Oh,
form
so that just,
Yeah, it'll be this, we'll utilize the same form tomorrow, and after tomorrow, we'll have them put it all together, and then then we'll kind of deliberate at that time on who we decide for second rounds.
Say, Tom,
Yeah, Dave.
there were a few times when I got a message on my computer that said that your bandwidth was getting low, just so you know that.
Okay.
So I don't know if that was part of the freeze up here or what, but.
Probably was. It
See a
came up on
couple
my
times.
end too.
Oh, it did? Okay.
Yeah, usually it doesn't happen, but my daughter's taking some college classes
Sure.
online, so it sometimes can mess up. Do we have everybody back, Dave? Can we continue? Or do we have to wait till 8?
Everyone's back.
I think everybody's back.
Okay. So at this time, we need a motion to go to recess till tomorrow at 4:25, correct?
That's correct. And you should probably do a roll call vote.
Yep, we will. So do I have a motion?
I so move.
I'll second.
Okay, we got a motion, we got a second. Discussion. All in favor, we'll do roll call vote. Mark,
Aye.
Mimi,
Aye.
Arlen,
Aye.
Richard,
Aye.
Josh,
aye.
Gene.
Aye.
Okay, we're all good. We'll see you tomorrow evening at 4:25 then, correct, David? You gonna be here, Dave?
Yep, I'll be here. Yep, 4:25. I'll be there early, but I try to get the questions to the people ahead of time. So,
Okay, thanks. Mark had a question.
okay,
Oh, you just waving goodbye.
No, just waving goodbye.
okay. All right.
We'll see you guys all tomorrow. Have a good
All right.
night.
Thank you. Great. You guys did a great job tonight. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
See you, David.